History is a journey, a series of transformative moments that shape the course of humanity. From humble beginnings to monumental discoveries, every step built the world we know today. But what if these moments had never occurred? What if a single invention, a single battle, or a single revolution never took place? Join us as we unravel 10 world-changing events that altered the fabric of our existence. Imagine the impact if they had never happened. This is history like you've never imagined it before. Fire was both a gift and a threat. Early humans first encountered it through natural events, like lightning strikes. They were captivated by its warmth and light but wary of its destructive power. Realizing its potential, they began experimenting, learning to protect and nurture small flames in stone pits, ensuring the fire stayed under control. To harness fire, early humans developed techniques to create it. Striking flint to produce sparks and rubbing dry wood together were the first steps toward mastery. Fire control required patience and skill. Elders taught others how to blow on embers, create fire with friction, and protect it from wind and rain. With fire becoming central to survival, dedicated firekeepers ensured the flames never went out. They learned how to transport embers in hollowed-out logs, passing them between groups and safeguarding them through the night. Fire wasn't just a tool. It was a symbol of community and knowledge, passed down from generation to generation. Fire unlocked new possibilities. Cooking food made it safer and more nutritious, leading to stronger, healthier humans. It allowed early humans to experiment with pottery and metalworking, laying the groundwork for civilization. Fire became a place of connection, sparking storytelling and social bonds that strengthened groups. What if fire had never been controlled? Without it, life would be limited to daylight hours, raw food, and constant vulnerability to the cold and wildlife. Without fire, advancements in tools, hunting strategies, and social organization would have been impossible. The story of human progress would have looked very different. Before the agricultural revolution, humans lived as hunter-gatherers. They moved with the seasons, relying on hunting wild animals and gathering plants to survive. It was a life of constant movement, dependent on the unpredictable patterns of nature. Though they developed tools and strategies to track and hunt prey, life was hard and uncertain. Resources could deplete quickly, leading to periods of scarcity and hardship. Amidst the hardships, early humans began to notice patterns in nature. They observed how certain plants, when left undisturbed, would grow and regrow each season. The realization that seeds could produce more plants sparked a profound shift in thinking. This simple act of planting seeds was the first step toward cultivating a steady food source. It was an early experiment with domestication, laying the groundwork for a monumental transformation. Initially, cultivating food was a laborious process. Early humans learned to till the land, creating small plots where they could plant and nurture crops. It was a trial-and-error period, filled with successes and failures. Farming required patience and dedication. Humans had to learn the right time to plant, the importance of water and sunlight, and how to protect crops from pests and animals. These lessons were passed from one generation to the next, gradually refining their techniques. As the practice of agriculture grew, so did the need for permanent living spaces. Humans began to settle in one place, creating villages centered around their fields. The nomadic lifestyle gave way to a new way of life, farming communities. With a steady food supply, human populations grew. Societies became more complex, giving rise to leaders, artisans, and new roles. Agriculture laid the foundation for the first true communities. The agricultural revolution didn't stop at cultivating plants. It also included the domestication of animals. Livestock became essential for farming, providing meat, milk, and valuable labor. Domesticated animals revolutionized farming techniques, making it possible to till larger fields and transport goods with ease. This innovation led to a significant increase in crop yield, supporting larger and more complex societies. As agriculture took hold, social structures began to evolve. Permanent settlements meant that people could engage in activities beyond just food production. New roles emerged: potters, blacksmiths, traders, and leaders. Communities became more organized, setting the stage for the growth of cities and eventually, civilizations. Agriculture transformed human culture, inspiring art, music, and traditions that celebrated the cycle of planting and harvesting. This newfound stability gave people the time and energy to explore creativity and innovation. What if agriculture had never been discovered? Humanity would have remained scattered, struggling to survive without the luxury of a stable food supply. Populations would have stayed small, and the complex societies we know today would never have formed. Without agriculture, there would be no cities, no organized communities, and no significant technological progress. The world would be a much simpler, more dangerous place. Before the wheel, transportation was a grueling challenge. Humans relied on brute strength to move heavy items, often dragging them across rough, uneven terrain. This method limited their ability to expand their settlements, trade, or develop new technologies. The need for easier, more efficient ways to move goods was apparent, but the solution was elusive. It would take a spark of insight to change everything. Sometimes, the key to innovation lies in observing the world around us. Early humans noticed how logs and round stones rolled smoothly, moving more effortlessly than heavy objects dragged on the ground. It was in these simple moments that the idea of rolling was born. The shape and movement of a round object sparked a new line of thinking. Could this simple concept be applied to lift and move larger loads? Early inventors took the idea of a rolling stone and began experimenting with materials like wood. They carved logs and flat discs, trying to find a way to mimic the rolling motion they had observed. The first attempts were crude. While these discs worked to some extent, they lacked stability and were difficult to maneuver. The challenge was not just to roll but to create a wheel that could be used effectively. The breakthrough came when the concept of an axle was integrated with a circular disc. Early engineers discovered that by creating a solid hub and attaching it to an axle, they could make a wheel that turned smoothly, carrying loads with minimal effort. With the invention of the true wheel, movement became easier and more efficient. The wheel's design revolutionized transportation, allowing people to move larger loads, travel greater distances, and transport goods across harsh terrains. The wheel was the foundation of progress. It enabled the growth of trade, with goods moving more easily between regions. Settlements expanded into cities, as the transport of heavy supplies became practical. The creation of roads and trade routes, vital to early commerce, was born from this one invention. The wheel's influence didn't stop at transportation. It spurred advancements in engineering, such as the development of better tools, machines, and eventually, complex structures. Civilizations that embraced this innovation thrived, with networks of trade and technology spreading throughout the ancient world. What if the wheel had never been invented? The growth of early human societies would have been stunted. Heavy lifting would have remained a daunting task, limiting the development of cities and industries. The progression toward modern technology and engineering would have been far slower. Without the wheel, there would have been fewer trade routes, and the spread of ideas and goods would have been severely restricted. The wheel was more than just an invention. It was a catalyst for the growth of human civilization as we know it. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built under Pharaoh Khufu's reign, was a symbol of power, devotion, and ambition. This colossal structure was not just a tomb, but an enduring testament to the ingenuity of the ancient Egyptians. Khufu envisioned a pyramid that would outshine all others, a beacon that would stand for eternity. With meticulous planning, he set his engineers and architects to work, formulating one of the most ambitious projects in human history. To aid the construction, Egyptians developed various tools and techniques, such as ramps and wooden wheelbarrows, to lift and transport the stones. The use of ramps, likely built in zigzag patterns or spiraling around the structure, enabled the workers to move stones higher as the pyramid grew. After 20 years of relentless work, the Great Pyramid of Giza stood as the tallest man-made structure in the world. It was an awe-inspiring achievement, marking an unparalleled accomplishment in the ancient world. To the ancient Egyptians, the pyramid was more than just a tomb. It was a connection to the divine, a symbol of power, and a means of ensuring the pharaoh's safe passage to the afterlife. It showcased the unity, skill, and vision of a civilization at its peak. What if the Great Pyramid had never been built? The legacy of ancient Egypt would have been vastly different. lacking one of its most iconic and enduring symbols. The pyramid was a beacon of human ingenuity, influencing architecture and engineering for centuries to come. Without the Great Pyramid, humanity might not have seen the rise of monumental structures in the same way, and the story of human progress would have been rewritten. Rome, once a kingdom ruled by kings, had reached a breaking point under its last monarch, Tarquin the Proud. His oppressive rule and acts of tyranny sowed the seeds of rebellion among the Roman people. Tarquin's arrogance, coupled with his disregard for the rights of the aristocracy and common people, ignited the flames of dissent. Among those who sought to end the monarchy was a man named Lucius Junius Brutus, a relative of Tarquin who had sworn to free Rome from tyranny. With the support of the Senate and the people, Brutus led the charge against the royal family. The last king, Tarquin, and his supporters were driven out of Rome, marking the end of the monarchy. On the day following Tarquin's departure, the Senate convened to establish a new system of government. Rome would no longer be ruled by a king, but by elected officials accountable to the people. The Republic was born from the ashes of tyranny, defined by a new system where power was shared among elected magistrates, and laws were written to protect the rights of all citizens. The first consuls were elected to oversee the government and lead the army. Brutus and Collatinus, both instrumental in overthrowing Tarquin, became the first men to hold this power, ensuring that no one man could dominate Rome as a king had. The establishment of this dual consul system marked a significant shift. Power was now balanced between two leaders, serving one-year terms to prevent any single person from accumulating too much influence. The establishment of the Roman Republic was more than just the end of a monarchy. It was the birth of a system of governance that would influence future democracies around the world. The values of civic duty, shared power, and accountability would shape Rome's identity for centuries. Rome's transition to a republic laid the foundation for an era of innovation, expansion, and the enduring idea that power should rest in the hands of the people. The republic's principles echo through history, influencing societies that strive for freedom and justice. Had the republic never been established, Rome would have likely continued as a kingdom, with power concentrated in the hands of one ruler. The lack of representation and shared governance could have stunted social and political growth, changing the course of history. Without the republican system, Rome might not have evolved into the powerful and influential civilization we know, influencing law, politics, and society for millennia. Before paper, the Chinese and other civilizations used materials like bamboo strips, silk, and clay tablets to write down their thoughts and records. But these materials were heavy, difficult to work with, and limited the ease and speed of communication. Despite their importance, these writing surfaces were cumbersome. The search for a more practical solution was driven by the need for more efficient communication and documentation. It is said that necessity is the mother of invention. The inspiration for paper came from the observation of nature itself. Cai Luan, a court official, was known for his curiosity and inventive mind. He saw how natural fibers, like those in bamboo, could be intertwined and shaped into flexible materials. Driven by the vision of an easier, more efficient writing medium, Cai Luan experimented with different fibers, including bamboo, hemp, and the bark of trees. He mixed these with water, creating a pulp that could be spread into thin layers and dried. The process involved scooping the pulp onto a frame made of thin, woven fibers, allowing the water to drain and leaving behind a thin sheet of wet pulp. This sheet was then pressed to remove excess water and left to dry in the sun. To ensure the paper's durability and consistency, the sheets were pressed and dried until they hardened into a usable form. When Cai Luan presented his invention to the emperor and court scholars, it was met with astonishment. The flexibility, light weight, and ability to write easily on the surface made it far superior to anything used before. Paper was not only easier to produce but also more cost-effective. It revolutionized the way information could be stored, shared, and used. Word of Cai Luan's invention spread rapidly along trade routes. The lightweight and durable nature of paper made it an invaluable commodity, spreading through Central Asia, the Middle East, and eventually reaching Europe. Paper transformed education and the sharing of knowledge. Libraries that once held only scrolls and heavy books began to fill with the new, more accessible material. It sparked an era of intellectual growth and innovation. With paper, literacy spread more widely, enabling not just scholars but ordinary people to access written knowledge. The newfound ease of communication paved the way for advancements in art, literature, and science. Paper became the medium of record-keeping, literature, religious texts, and legal documents. It allowed ideas to be documented and passed down through generations, leading to the growth of civilizations. What if paper had never been invented? The progress of humanity would have been impeded. Education, communication, and the spread of knowledge would have been slower and more limited. The complexity of developing ideas, literature, and scientific breakthroughs would have faced significant barriers. Paper, an invention we now take for granted, was a cornerstone of human progress. Before the printing press, books were rare and precious. Every manuscript was painstakingly copied by hand, a task that could take years. Knowledge was a luxury reserved for the wealthy and powerful. Monks and scribes worked tirelessly to preserve and share knowledge, but this labor-intensive method limited the reach of information and kept education out of the hands of the common people. In the mid-15th century, a German inventor named Johannes Gutenberg changed history. Driven by a vision to make books more accessible, he combined existing technologies and his innovative ideas to create the first mechanical printing press. Gutenberg's brilliance lay in his creation of movable type, individual metal letters that could be arranged and rearranged to form words. This innovation allowed for mass production of text, replacing the slow, meticulous hand-copying process. After years of experimentation, Gutenberg completed the first major book printed using movable type in 1455, the Gutenberg Bible. It marked the dawn of a new era in human communication. The Gutenberg Bible was not only a technical achievement but also a symbol of change. For the first time, literature could be reproduced rapidly, making books more affordable and accessible to a larger audience. The printing press ignited what would come to be known as the printing revolution. Books, pamphlets, and documents spread like wildfire, reaching places where literacy had once been rare. Information that had once been locked within monasteries and royal courts was now circulating among townspeople, fueling debate, discovery, and the spread of new ideas. Education was transformed as printed materials became more accessible. Students no longer had to rely on scarce and expensive manuscripts. They could learn from printed textbooks and scholarly works. Religion, too, was revolutionized. Martin Luther's 95 Theses, for example, were quickly printed and spread across Europe, sparking debates that would lead to the Protestant Reformation. With the printing press, scientific knowledge that had previously been limited to a few scholars became widespread. Scientists could share findings and theories more efficiently, laying the groundwork for the scientific revolution. Books like Copernicus' heliocentric theory challenged the traditional views of the universe, changing the way humanity understood its place in the cosmos. What if Gutenberg had never invented the printing press? The spread of knowledge would have been slow and limited, confined to handwritten copies that were expensive and error-prone. Without the printing press, education and literacy would remain a luxury for the privileged, and the exchange of ideas would be stifled. The rapid pace of progress we associate with the Renaissance and the Enlightenment would have been hindered. Long before electricity was understood, its presence was felt as a powerful, awe-inspiring force of nature. The first encounters were in the form of lightning, an immense and unpredictable display that struck fear and wonder into those who witnessed it. Ancient humans saw the destructive power of lightning, but it remained a mystery they could neither harness nor replicate. The first scientific exploration of electricity began with Thales of Miletus in ancient Greece, around 600 BC. Thales discovered that when amber was rubbed with fur, it would attract light objects, an early glimpse into what we now call static electricity. Thales' findings laid the groundwork for future studies, but the knowledge was rudimentary and limited to observation. In the 1600s, the study of electricity began to gain traction. English scientist William Gilbert is credited with advancing the understanding of electricity. He coined the term electricus and conducted experiments with materials like glass, amber, and various metals. Gilbert's work laid the foundation for modern electrical studies and helped distinguish between magnetic and electrical forces. One of the most pivotal experiments in the discovery of electricity occurred in 1752, when Benjamin Franklin demonstrated that lightning was a form of electrical energy. Franklin's experiment proved that the electric charge in lightning was the same as that generated by static electricity. This understanding paved the way for the creation of the lightning rod, a device that would protect buildings from the destructive power of storms. In 1800, Italian scientist Alessandro Volta invented the first true battery, known as the voltaic pile. This device marked a turning point in the understanding of electrical current. Volta's battery generated a continuous flow of electricity, demonstrating that electrical current could be controlled and sustained, rather than being a fleeting phenomenon. Michael Faraday's experiments in the 1830s changed the world of electricity. He discovered electromagnetic induction, the principle that a moving magnet through a wire can generate an electric current. This discovery laid the foundation for the development of electric generators and motors, creating a pathway for harnessing electricity as a power source. The discovery and harnessing of electricity changed society. From Franklin's experiments to Volta's battery and Faraday's induction, each step contributed to a world where light, communication, and industry would be revolutionized. With the invention of the electric light bulb, society transitioned from relying on candles and gas lamps to having a more efficient, safer source of illumination. This advancement set the stage for an electrified world. What if electricity had never been discovered? The world would be a place where human ingenuity was limited by the slow, cumbersome technologies of the past. We would have had no light after sunset, no electric-powered machines, and no modern conveniences. Electricity's discovery was a turning point in human history. Without it, the pace of scientific advancement, industrial progress, and social change would have been drastically slower. It was 1928, and Alexander Fleming, a Scottish bacteriologist, was immersed in his research at St. Mary's Hospital in London. He was studying Staphylococcus bacteria, trying to find a way to combat infections. But the course of medical history changed when a small, unintended event occurred. Fleming noticed a petri dish where a mold called Penicillium notatum had contaminated the culture. The mold appeared to have killed the surrounding bacteria. This mold, he realized, was a biological substance with antibiotic properties, a potential cure for infections that had long plagued humanity. Fleming meticulously extracted and purified the mold's active compound, penicillin. He tested its effects on harmful bacteria and found that it was effective at destroying them. Yet, his discovery was met with skepticism, and he struggled to convince the medical community of its importance. Many saw it as a fluke, an interesting observation but not a revolutionary one. The world of medicine was still largely dependent on treatments that had limited success against bacterial infections, and the idea of a miracle cure seemed almost too good to be true. It wasn't until World War II that penicillin found its real potential. The war created an urgent need for an effective treatment for soldiers' battlefield infections. Florey and Chain, with their team, took Fleming's work and refined it, scaling up the production process. With the efforts of teams in Britain and later the United States, including scientists like Dr. Norman Heatley and the team at Pfizer, penicillin became the first antibiotic mass-produced for medical use. The world watched as lives were saved on a scale previously unimaginable. Penicillin's introduction was revolutionary. For the first time, a bacterial infection that once claimed countless lives could be treated effectively. It changed the landscape of medicine, reducing the mortality rate of infectious diseases dramatically. Diseases like pneumonia, tuberculosis, and sepsis became treatable, transforming public health across the globe. Before penicillin, minor injuries could lead to fatal infections, and a simple case of strep throat could become deadly. The discovery of penicillin opened the door to a future where medical science could not only treat but prevent life-threatening illnesses. But what if penicillin had never been discovered? Without this breakthrough, the world would have remained at the mercy of bacterial infections. The mortality rate from diseases that are now easily treated would have remained high, and the rapid medical advancements that followed might have been delayed by decades. Without penicillin, medical advancements such as modern surgical procedures, organ transplants, and the creation of more antibiotics would have been significantly hindered. the world would have been a far more perilous place, where the simple act of a cut or scratch could still be life-threatening. In the mid-20th century, the digital revolution was ignited by the birth of the first computers. The ENIC, developed in 1945, was one of the first general-purpose computers. It was enormous, filling entire rooms, and used thousands of vacuum tubes. Though primitive by today's standards, it laid the groundwork for a future that would reshape the world. By the 1970s, computing shrank from room-sized machines to devices that could fit on a desk. The invention of microprocessors in 1971 by Intel's team made it possible to pack processing power into tiny chips, sparking a new era of accessibility and innovation. At the heart of the digital revolution was the creation of the Internet. What began as a military project called ARPANET in the late 1960s evolved into the vast network we now take for granted. By the 1980s, computer scientists had laid the foundation for the modern Internet, establishing protocols that allowed different networks to communicate. When Tim Berners-Lee introduced the World Wide Web in 1991, the possibilities of human connection expanded exponentially. The Internet became more than just a tool for academia and government. It became a public frontier, accessible to all. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, the digital revolution accelerated. Personal computers became household staples, and the Internet rapidly became a space for learning, commerce, and communication. The launch of Microsoft Windows and the popularization of Apple's Macintosh computer further fueled this digital wave. Then came the mobile revolution. In 2007, Apple unveiled the iPhone, changing the way we connect and interact forever. Smartphones combined communication, the Internet, photography, and multimedia into a single, handheld device, making technology an integral part of daily life. With the dawn of social media in the 2000s, the world became more interconnected than ever. Facebook, Twitter, and later platforms like Instagram and TikTok transformed communication from simple messages to real-time interactions with friends and strangers alike. News spread faster, ideas took root in new places, and the digital world became a stage for activism, culture, and creativity. Today, the digital revolution has reached a stage where artificial intelligence, machine learning, and augmented reality are the frontier. With each passing moment, technology continues to evolve at an exponential rate. We are more connected than ever, learning, shopping, working, and even creating entirely in the digital realm. But what if the digital revolution never happened? What if the inventions that have connected billions, sparked movements, and transformed industries had been left undiscovered? Without the digital era, communication would be slow, commerce limited to physical transactions, and the world might be less united, its cultures more isolated. From the way we work to the way we think, technology has become the lens through which we view reality. The digital revolution has not only changed how we interact but redefined what it means to be human in the 21st century. History isn't just a series of events, it's a story of resilience and innovation. These moments remind us that even the smallest spark can ignite extraordinary change. Thank you for watching The Wisdom Tooth. Like, share, and subscribe for more insights into the twists and turns of history. Until next time, stay curious.